It's Bucket. Mystical agriculture. In our first video on Nether Stars, we found that a Soul Surge hydroponic bed produced 80 times more than a setup with red fertilizer and A2 growth accelerators. Simulated hydroponic beds were recently introduced. Now, the way simulated hydroponic beds work is you need a hydroponic simulation processor in the hydroponic bed to generate data on a growing crop. With enough data, you can then move that and the seed to a simulated hydroponic bed. But here's the thing. It can be a little bit tedious having to run simulations for all of your seeds before you even move them. So at this point, you might have wanted to automate this. The problem with that was you can pipe a simulation processor into the hydroponic bed, but you can't pipe it out. So in our previous video, I thought that this couldn't be automated. But that was the old me. That's right. Today, I'm going to show you how you can automate moving your entire mystical agriculture farm to simulated hydroponic beds. Okay, firstly, something was brought to my attention and made me realize that in my first video, I must have been using an earlier version of simulated hydroponic beds during my testing. And so the numbers turned out differently compared to what was released in the All the Mods 10 pack in version 2.45. There are some things that are going to be different, but rest assured, I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't have a solution. But first, you're going to want to know how you can use this new information and through rigorous testing, how I can save you a ton of time moving forward. So there are two main differences that I had to consider. The simulated hydroponic beds aren't going to be as crazy out the gate. Now to find out how these changes affect us, luckily, yet again, I've done all the hard work for you. Of course, I did some testing on the different efficiencies. Here's a screenshot of the results at a minute into the test, 5 minutes in, and at 10 minutes. So how do the different efficiencies compare to the normal hydroponic bed? The main thing you need to know is that a hydroponic bed soul surged 4 times is comparable to a simulated hydroponic bed soul surged 5 times at an efficiency of 1.5. The other thing you might notice is that over time, the simulated hydroponic beds got better. Take a look at the efficiency 1.0 simulation with 6 soul surges. 1 minute into the test, we saw that the production output was about 12% worse than the hydroponic bed. However, at the 10-minute mark, this changed to being about 9% more than the hydroponic bed. And how much better is having more soul surges? Comparing to 4 soul surges, each soul surge seems to give about a 25% increase in output. So what efficiency should you aim for? Compared to the numbers in our last video, the executions take longer. With a hydroponic bed soul surged 4 times, it takes 69 seconds to reach an efficiency of 1.5. Nice. To go from 0 to an efficiency of 2.0 takes about 18 minutes. What does this mean for you? Mystical agriculture has 120 seeds that don't need cruxes. Just using this as an example, if you were to train simulation processors one at a time for these, to get an efficiency of 1.5, it would take you 2 hours and 18 minutes. If you were to train them to an efficiency of 2.0, it would take you 36 hours. So at this point, I'm thinking you probably want to automate that process so that you're not having to manually move the seeds in simulations for 2 hours. Before we get to that though, there is the other change. Now bear with me because this is relevant to how you want to do your automation. Simulations have a chance to increase executions, which means they have a chance to increase their efficiency when they're in a simulated hydroponic bed. So what does this look like? Because the efficiency only has a chance of increasing, the numbers are going to vary. So to test this, I made simulation processors that started at 1 execution, and I ran them in simulated hydroponic beds for a minute each. One of them soul surged 5 times, and the other soul surged 6 times. With 5 soul surges, the simulation processors had an average of 185.5 executions. With 6 soul surges, the simulation processors had an average of 210.5 executions. Oh boy, more math. So from our previous data, it takes 2,829 executions to reach an efficiency of 1.5. That means a simulation processor starting at basically 0 to reach an efficiency of 1.5, it will take about 15.25 minutes in a simulated hydroponic bed soul surged 5 times, or 13.44 minutes in a simulated hydroponic bed soul surged 6 times. Alright Bucket, those are a lot of numbers. Where are we going with this? First of all, I did mention that I have a way to automate this. The process is going to be automated, but we are going to be setting up a timer based on how long we want the simulations to run for. Knowing all of this information, we actually have a few options on how long we're going to set the timer for. Let's say that we want to set up simulated hydroponic beds for 120 seeds. Our aim is to reach an efficiency of at least 1.5, which would take 69 seconds. The closest I could set a post timer to is 1 minute. So it would take us 2 hours to get through it all. Now to speed up that process, we could set up our automation twice, which would instead take us an hour, or 4 times, which would take us 30 minutes. But what if we wanted to just get our simulation started, put them straight into our simulated hydroponic beds, and train the simulations within the simulated hydroponic beds? How long would that take? Within our simulated hydroponic beds, they would take a little over 15 minutes to reach an efficiency of 1.5. So if we're going to train our simulation processors in our simulated hydroponic beds, we only need our normal hydroponic bed to get our simulation started, which would mean we can set our timer to whatever we want. Let's say we set it to 1 second. That would mean it would take us 2 minutes to get through 120 seeds. That's 2 minutes to start the simulation processes, and then 15 minutes in the simulated hydroponic beds to get to 1.5. That's going to be 17 minutes. All of this without the need to have to set up our automation any additional times. So to sum everything up, here's the TLDR. Hydroponic beds will always produce at the same rate, but simulated hydroponic beds will get better. So they will eventually produce faster and continue to produce even faster over time. Instead of spending a lot of time training our simulation processors in hydroponic beds, automating simulation processors is much faster if we automate starting the simulation processors and letting them progress on their own within the simulated hydroponic beds. That's right, and just like that, I just saved you a ton of time with all that math you didn't have to do. You're welcome. Okay, now that you understand what we're going to be doing, let's get to our automation. Okay, so this automation is going to be a bit of a process. In the example today, I'm going to be moving every single mystical agriculture seed to simulated hydroponic beds. That's 120 seeds. For simplicity, I'm going to be leaving out the 6 that need cruxes. But all you would need to do is just do the same thing, but with the crux underneath the hydroponic bed. Now, I will warn you that this is not just a simple 2-step automation. So you will need to pay attention, but don't worry. I'll be guiding you through the whole process. For this setup, as you can imagine, we're going to need hydroponic beds, which means you are going to need to progress through industrial foregoing. And for that reason, we're also going to need ether gas. Ether gas is required to run our simulations. And naturally, we're going to need water and power. I'm also going to be using a variety of blocks from Just Dire Things. Specifically, I'm going to be using 4 clickers, an advanced block placer, an advanced block breaker, and 5 item collectors. For this setup, we're also going to be using Soul Surge. And of course, to be able to use that, we're going to need to be harvesting souls from a warden. Now, how many drills are we going to need? We're going to be planting 120 seeds, which means 120 simulated hydroponic beds. If I'm going to be soul surging them 5 times each, that's 600 soul surges. Supposedly, a fully upgraded drill can support 41.66 soul surges, which means 600 divided by this, we're going to get 14 point something, which is going to mean we're going to need at least 15 drills. And ideally, of course, we're going to need tier 4 upgrades. With the hydroponic bed as well, we need 121 sets of upgrades. This part's not technically necessary, but I am going to be using applied logistics for our storage. So here's the rundown. We're going to have a Soul Surge hydroponic bed progressing our simulation processors. We can't get our simulation processors extracted, but we can force them out by breaking the whole hydroponic bed. Then we'll need to place the hydroponic bed again, add the upgrades, then have a new seed planted, make sure the hydroponic bed is still receiving ether gas, water, power, and a fresh simulation processor. And from all of our data earlier, we're going to set all of this to cycle at a timer set to 1 second or 20 ticks. So to start off, we're going to set up our simulated hydroponic beds. I would suggest that you spend the time to count how many seeds you plan on setting up and setting up the same amount of simulated hydroponic beds. Because we're going to be automatically filling these, you ideally don't want to end up with some empty hydroponic beds in the middle of your setup, just because it's going to get a bit annoying if you want to expand. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing 120 simulated hydroponic beds. This time, I'm going to be setting up our Super Factory Manager inventory cable vertically, and we're going to have 60 hydroponic beds on either side. First, I'm going to do our first one for our template. For this one, I'm just going to add the 4 soul surges, so I can copy this to the other side of the wall using a copy paste gadget. Then I'll add the 5th soul surge as well as the soul pipes, and we're going to copy this entire thing. So this whole thing we're going to copy 5 times. Really, it's just going to be a process of copy pasting this whole thing. So I'm going to copy paste this whole thing 3 times, and it's going to give us 15 on either side. Copy pasting the whole thing again is going to give us 30 on either side, and then copy pasting the whole thing once again is going to give us 60 on either side. That's the full 120. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to use a cut paste gadget to temporarily take off the outside layer of soul surges to make it easier to click our simulated hydroponic beds. Once we've done that, we're going to add our upgrades. Make sure you have all your upgrades in your inventory. We're going to put them in our first machine. Then we're going to use the machine settings copier from Industrial Foregoing Core. For this, we're going to shift right click to copy the settings. Then we're going to shift right click all of our machines, which is going to add all of our upgrades to all of them. Keep in mind, if you hear this sound, that's the sound of the settings getting cleared, which means you've misclicked. If this happens, just go back and copy the settings of a machine that has upgrades in it and resume upgrading. Before we add our Soul Surge layer back on, we're going to use this opportunity to add Super Factory Manager labels on too. Our Super Factory Manager program is going to be similar to last time, but specifically, we're going to have the output set to round robin mode. This will make it so our manager is going to choose a different block every time it wants to perform these actions. So for us, it means that the seed and the simulation processor will go into the same hydroponic bed. I'm going to leave a copy to all the code we use today in the description below. Right-click the arrow to select a label, label your barrel, and our Hydrobed label for our hydroponic beds. Then we can re-add our soul surges with the cut paste gadget. Then we just need to do the exact same thing to the other side. Once you're done with the labels, push them back to the manager. Now for automating the simulation processors. So for this setup, I'm going to have a hydroponic bed near our barrel, soul surged 4 times. With our spare face, we're going to be using Super Factory Manager to move things between our hydroponic bed and an oversized interface. Within our interface, we're going to right-click with the soul pipe to assign souls to a slot. Then we're going to add ether gas and water. I'm also going to be adding simulation processors here. So you will have to make sure that you have enough crafted. Remember, I'm doing 120 seeds, so I'm going to need 120 simulation processors crafted in my system. For power, I'm going to be using flux networks. So with flux networks, you can't just put a flux point on the factory manager. And that's because flux points don't actually store any power, so there's nothing for Super Factory Manager to extract. So to work around this, we're going to use a mechanism cube to use as an energy buffer. The flux point's going to insert energy into the cube for our factory manager to extract. So in our code, we're going to set our input as our cube, making sure to specify a side. I'm going to put bottom side. Then with our cube touching the manager block, we're going to make sure that that side is set to output, which again is the bottom side for me. But also don't forget to set the flux point side to input. Now the code I've also set to activate on a redstone pulse. This is so that we can make it move faster than the default 20 tick limit. And we can do that by putting down a pulse timer pointing to our manager block and setting that to 2 ticks. After that, we'll label our blocks and push the labels to our manager. Now, if you're not familiar with Just Dire Things blocks, here's where you're going to need to pay close attention. We're going to have an advanced block breaker and an advanced block placer on top. Clicking on render area will show you where the machines are targeting. Using the options at the top, we're going to adjust the area so that it's selecting the hydroponic bed. Both of these, we're going to right click the tick speed to bring it down to 1. This is going to make it so that they work every tick. On the advanced block breaker, we're going to set it to activate on a redstone pulse. We're also going to need to provide it with a pickaxe to break the hydroponic bed. The redstone pulse will be provided by a pulse timer. I'm going to set up a lever first and switch it on in advance. This is going to disable the pulse timer when I place it down. This lever is also going to be our on-off switch for our whole setup. Place the pulse timer facing the advanced block breaker, and because of our analysis from earlier, we're going to leave this at its default setting at 20 ticks. Both of these are also going to need power. Then we're going to put an item collector on top of our advanced block breaker. This is going to grab our hydroponic bed once it's broken. So we'll need to have it select an area around the hydroponic bed. Then I'm going to set the tick speed to 1 and add the hydroponic bed to our filter slot and set it to an allow list. Put a barrel next to it, and this is going to have our seeds. You can use a pipe if you want, but I'm going to be putting in an advanced hopper upgrade and have it push out. And that's where we're going to be putting an advanced clicker. This is going to be planting the seeds into our hydroponic bed. Turning on the render area, we want to adjust it so that it's targeting the hydroponic bed. By default, it should be set targeting down, which we're going to leave that as it is. Enable the sneak click option and set the tick speed to 1. Then give the block power. And as soon as we do, it should plant the first seed. Now I'm going to be setting up 3 advanced clickers. These are going to be reinserting the upgrades. We can click render area to show the working area once again, and we're going to have all 3 clickers targeting the hydroponic bed. Then bring the tick speed to 1. And we're going to enable sneak click on all of them. All of these will need power as well. Then we're going to put item collectors on top and have all 3 select an area around the hydroponic bed. Then we're setting the tick speed to 1. For all of these, we're going to set the filter to an allow list. Each item collector is going to have a different upgrade in the filter slot. Now we're going to put an item collector onto our original barrel next to our first manager block. Similarly, we're going to select an area around the hydroponic bed and bring the tick speed to 1. We're going to keep this on deny list, and we're going to add the hydroponic bed and each of the upgrades. And this will stop the item collector from picking any of these up. So that's going to mean it'll pick up the seed, the simulation processor, and any leftover essences. Now it is important that you don't clog up this barrel with your essences, because of course we need it to pick up our seeds and our simulation processors. And for that reason, I'm going to be adding some void upgrades. I'm going to switch one of them to filter by tag and drag any mystical agriculture essence from JEI. Then I can set the tag to mystical agriculture essences. The other one I'm going to leave on item filter to filter out fertilized essence, because this one doesn't have a tag. And that's the hard part done. Now, when our automation is running, try and keep your distance so you don't accidentally pick something up. Otherwise, when you're ready, just hit the lever that we set up earlier. Okay, now taking a look, we can see that all of our simulated hydroponic beds should be filled with the correct seed, matching the correct simulation processor. Nice. Final stretch. We're going to set up the inputs and outputs for our simulated hydroponic beds. I'm going to use the energy cube and flux point for our power again, making sure the input and outputs are set correctly. I'm going to use the bottom side again, inputting our new code. Thankfully, our simulated hydroponic beds are already labeled. Now here's the thing about our oversized interfaces. Our manager is going to aim to insert all of our outputs at the same time. Our simulated hydroponic beds are going to output essence and fertilized essence. So for the most part, 120 different seeds means 120 different essences plus fertilized essence. Oversized interfaces have 36 slots. So we're going to need 4 of them in order to have enough slots in order to extract all of the outputs from our machines. When you're adding interfaces, don't forget to add souls to one of them and connect your soul surges. I'm just using wireless connectors to connect my interfaces to my applied logistics network. Then pull the labels from our manager, label your blocks, and we're all set. Just a quick note as well, you will notice that once you connect your soul surges, your souls are going to start dwindling. That's only because your pipes and your soul surges will have a buffer that needs to be filled. Give it time and your system will catch up. In about 15 minutes, our simulations will reach an efficiency of 1.5. After that, these should then produce faster than normal hydroponic beds. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. I'm Bucket, and I'll see you in the next one.